All right, welcome to another candidate interview. We are here with Mr. Joe Dowd. How's it going, Shawanang?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
Let's go over the ground rules as always. You have a 60-minute time limit. Use as much or as little as that time as you'd like. These are straight cut episodes with edit points based around this camera shooting time.
Okay.
I'll set a timer here and watch it, and I'll let everyone know when we're resetting the cameras.
Right.
No talking bad about people. And
good.
that's about it. Let's get this show on the road. Joe, for all the people out there, the ones that know you and the ones that don't, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Bonjour. Shawanang and Didnikas, Ginu Dodam. Asinins in Dunjiba. I was born and raised right here on the reservation. I was an altar boy. I went into the orphanage at a young age. Went on relocation. The orphanage thing was about, I remember going in the first grade with Mrs. Anisage, Berga School.
Right down here by the church?
Yep, and then there was a school there. Went to school there for maybe a year or something. Just a one-room schoolhouse type thing.
What was that like?
Yeah, that was really interesting because the bigger boys were mean and bullies to the littler boys.
Yeah.
And you had to survive that. I remember they would take baby pins.
Yeah.
They'd unhook them, make them straight, and they'd poke you in the butt with them.
Jesus.
Yeah, I mean it was terrible back
That's
then.
brutal.
Yeah, and then once I got in the orphanage, they were if you said "Dasma Wiesenen," which my parents taught me, come and eat, yell out the door. My mom would yell, "Come and eat, Wiesenen."
Yeah.
We'd say that in our Boujou or Magwij. I'd get slapped.
Really?
They wanted me to play piano, and the nuns would watch you over, and they had a piano. When you hit the wrong key, they'd hit you across the knuckles for hitting the wrong key.
Wow.
Or doing it wrong.
You know, there's a lot of people out there that'll say that stuff happened hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, no, it happened. I'm 72 today, or this year, and in my lifetime, that was I'd say I come out of the orphanage when I started fourth grade in Berga School.
Okay.
I was supposed to start fifth grade, but they told me I didn't have the right math, so they put me back in the fourth grade.
Yeah, gotcha.
And from the orphanage, it was I was watching my brothers. I was taking care of those children, those younger people that were younger than I was.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I had 12.
12. And
12
where are you
younger
at in the 12?
Let's see. There was Ed, Pat, Doris, John, Bill, and then me. I'm the sixth.
The 6th. Right in the middle of the group, just about.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right in the middle.
Right, and then below me was Tom, Donnie, Larry, and Bruce, and then my sister Mary.
Okay.
There was 9 of us, but there was little ones that passed on at birth.
Oh, really? Okay. And you were in charge of watching your siblings quite a bit.
Oh yeah. And in the orphanage, I did the same thing. When they'd slap you in the ear or in the back of the head, or grab your ear or your sideburns and your hair and pull you up and brutally push you around and things like that.
So you were taking care of the other ones?
When I seen that happening to younger children, I'd run up and get between the nun and the child, and they'd slap me once, and then stop their brutality.
Yeah. So, but did they turn it on you at all?
Oh yeah.
I mean, must have.
I ran away once, and I was trying to come home, and I was hitchhiking the wrong way. I was going towards Harvey in that way.
Man, that's.
And when I got back, what happened was I was running down a railroad track, and I looked back, and a police officer was chasing me. And I was gone for maybe like 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, he couldn't catch you.
He couldn't catch me, no way. But what happened is I was so hungry, there was a blueberry patch on the side of the railroad tracks, and I was hungry. I ran in that blueberry patch,
Oh,
and it was way over my head, and I was picking these great big thumb-sized blackberries. I mean,
yeah.
and eating, and he, come on out of there, come on out. And he talked me. He came in there himself, and then he finally got me and talked me into coming back.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
feed you, and I don't know what
Wow.
other things. But when I got back, the nun took me and 4 other big boys, they called them. They were bigger kids, and 2 held me by my arms, my hands, and my legs, and she whipped me.
With what?
Pulled my pants about. She had a strap about like maybe 4 inches wide, like a razor thing with you could sharpen razors with,
Yeah.
and hit me so long that I feel myself sort of like to faint.
Yeah.
And I was just going dark, and then she quit.
Man, I mean, those are the stories that people try to say that's happened so long ago and stuff like that, but
Exactly.
I'm very glad to know you, Joe.
And then when I looked up, I was crying. I looked up, and those two big boys that were holding my hands, there were crocodile tears coming right down their eyes.
Yeah.
They were crying too.
That's just madness.
And when we'd go to sleep, we were in a dormitory, and you could hear a little boy, I want my mom, I want my mom, my mommy. So I'd go over there and comfort him and says, you'll be all right. You have to go to sleep and don't wake up those nuns. They'd open up the door and cut her out over there, yell at something, and first thing you know, another boy would do it, and he'd start crying. And then, and night after night, the little boys would start crying and have everybody crying.
Yeah. I can't even imagine that. Just crazy. And, we we got to get you in the studio to talk about that. I mean, not to glorify it or anything. I mean, it's just an important story to be told. And like I said, I'm glad to know you. What a crazy experience.
And then from the orphanages.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't we're here to cover it. Just all of a sudden took a side turn. That's crazy.
And from the orphanage, I went to Burgess School. Got into I think it was 11th grade. My sister handed me a suitcase with a bunch of new clothes in, and told me that I had a job in Detroit.
In Detroit? Okay, that's a perfect spot. I have the timers coming right now. We'll continue that story right after this.
Okay.
And, okay, we are back up and running. Okay, so continuing on with your story here, the last thing you had said is that you got a letter to Detroit?
No, my sister got a bunch of clothes and a suitcase and some money and put me on a bus, and it was the relocation.
So she just told you that you're going to Detroit?
Right.
And
later on in life, I found out it was the Relocation Act.
Oh, okay. So at the time, you had no idea what was really going on?
I said, well, instead of going to school, a lot of people drop out of school and work, because back then, the Indians were very popular for workers, or anybody you wanted a good job, they all worked in the mills around here.
So at the time, then I'm interested, did people understand the intent behind that program, or?
It was pulling them away from their families to, I think, keeping them from their culture and their
getting
language.
them off, getting people off the reservation. At that time, was it understood that was happening, or was it looked upon like, hey, we're getting this help?
Yeah,
or a little bit of both?
To me, it was getting this help.
Yeah.
I don't know what other people were, but some other people on the res, they went to California and Chicago, Milwaukee, stuff like that. And I just happened to go to Detroit.
Yeah.
There was another fellow with me named Tommy Bruce. He was a shelfo, and he stayed maybe a couple months, and then he came back home. He couldn't take it.
It's hard being away from home.
Yeah, it was. I sent. I know we were poor, and I'd sent my mother money to help her along, because she was on ADC, Aid to Dependent Children.
Oh, okay.
And helped her in that way. And then Christmas time came. Hot Wheels, or those hot, you could race cars go around. I bought my brothers one of those. I bought my young sister Mary a watch.
You're very much about taking care of people.
Yeah, and gave my mom a cashmere sweater.
Cashmere.
Yeah.
Did you like it?
Oh, I loved it.
Nice. What happened after that then? You went down to Detroit.
I got a letter from the President of the United States that I was inducted into the United States Army. So I was drafted.
You're drafted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Came back home. I wanted to be home with my brothers and parents. And then I went in with Don Messer,
Okay.
Sr., Gator Ray, his name was, which it was Mackey. I forgot his first name. And a Stain from Moulton, Skaney.
Okay.
And us four guys went down and jumped on the train in Lawrence and drove to Milwaukee, and after that they told you to follow the yellow lines, and you got your shots and your haircut and all this other stuff, and went to Fort Jackson, got all our uniforms and things that we needed, and then I went to Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
Fort Bragg, North Carolina.
For basic training. It was
Okay.
called the Old Division.
And what year is this?
1966.
1966.
Right.
Okay.
Beatles were hot, and did basic training. Fort Bragg, got a 30-day leave, and went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, to the Signal Corps, avionics, electronics.
Okay. Very technical sounding.
Yeah, repairman I did. Well, I was surprised the hell out of me too, because it was because the teachers in Berwick School thought I was just going to be nothing but a ditch digger. They would tell me.
Ugh, ditch digger. Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
but here
Aviation,
I was
electronics.
on avionics, and
Yeah.
that's aircraft, and learn pitch, roll, and yaw about airplanes, tilt, and different ways, angle of attack.
Oh, wow.
And Ohm's law, and capacitors and resistors, and anything that went along electronics.
Yep.
So my MOS is 35N20, which was an automatic flight control repairman. But when I got my orders, it was to Vietnam, and I got there, and they put me in another whole category. It was radios.
All right. So you
call
weren't
it-
even doing the job you were trained for.
No.
All right.
So
Well,
I learned, what a FM it is, and the boxes, and where they were on Hueys or whatever airplane that we were servicing.
Yep.
And then we'd help sometimes for the airplanes that were down,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they'd leave bodies in there.
Oh, wow.
They pull it out of the rice paddies or out of the swamps, and they left it.
Joe, you've been through some crazy stuff.
And took the radios out of those old shot down planes that were salvable, and
Yeah.
and put them in planes that were good,
I see.
things
Wow.
like that.
So, like all that experience, I mean, does that affect you today? How you solve problems, how you deal with things and stuff? You must have learned quite a bit in that time.
Oh, well, I grew up quick, because while I was doing it, there was incoming coming in, mortars and rockets.
Oh my goodness.
And especially on the airfield, and had to run out in that run out of the air with a Jeep, or run,
Yeah.
put that FM or whatever was wrong with the thing, and run back
So you've done that under enemy fire?
under enemy fire.
My goodness. That's blowing my mind a little bit right now. That's crazy to think about. And like I said, I'm very happy to know you. Your hat there, that hat is,
The Signal Corps hat.
so that's what you got. That's showing off what you did, right?
That's showing off that I was in the Signal Corps.
Signal Corps.
Not showing
okay.
off, but that's
Recognition.
recognition.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I
yeah.
don't want anybody to forget a Vietnam veteran.
Oh no. I mean, if you weren't wearing it, that's why I'd say wear that, show that off.
Yeah,
But
I
man,
got a Eagle staff that I'm building just for the Vietnam veteran.
really, that's cool.
Yeah, King of the Bay, and then anybody in the United States, a Native American or a Shawanang.
Okay.
Anybody who was there or whatever.
We are going to reset these timers again.
Okay.
What'd you do after you got back from your experiences then overseas?
Okay. I ETS'd right out of Vietnam. So I was getting short like 30 days. That's when you start getting short. 30, and then 29, 28. I'm like 15.
Okay.
Dowd, you're on this flight. So they pulled me out of the Black Horse and went to, I think, Benoit. And I'm still all red from clay because it was all clay. Gave me a set of greens and put it in my duffel bag, collected all my belongings and things, and one went in a box to shipping and receiving, and the stuff I could carry is that's what I had.
Okay.
And jumped on a plane, a big yellow guy,
Yeah.
747 I think it was, and came home.
Came home. What'd you do when you got home?
I saved half my paycheck, so I had like $5,000 or $6,000, and bought a bunch of food for the house, and gave my brother some money, and bought a car, and I got a job with my brother-in-law, Art Mackey, at
Okay.
his welding shop, and worked on a pantograph.
A pantograph?
Pantograph. But you have a pattern up here, and this little motor was a magnet. It would follow that pattern.
Oh, really?
And on the bottom was a torch would cut the metal to that pattern,
Okay. I got you.
and just over and over and over.
Yeah.
Did that for $2 and some cents.
Really?
After working on thousands and $1,000,000 aircraft,
Yep.
I'm making $2. But
All right.
then I couldn't. So one day I was riding around with Beans Tyosh, and my brother Bruce, and he says, "Let's go to Milwaukee. We'll get a job, and we'll find a girlfriends, and we'll get married and live happily ever after." Well, we got down there, and he knew Marty Curtis, and Marty Curtis was living in Milwaukee at the time, and we stayed with him, and I got a job.
Yeah.
I started working in a foundry.
Foundry.
No, before the foundry, I was working at Elias Big Boy as a busboy,
Busboy.
collecting all the dirty dishes and stuff off the tables, and
Yeah.
put them in the things, and sometimes washing dishes and stuff like that.
Doing what had to be done.
Yeah, and then I thought I was doing right because I'd clean the table off and find all this money on it, and I come home with all this change and stuff like that, and go down to the bar maybe and pay all my buddies' drinks with coins.
Yeah.
And from there I went into a foundry, a little small foundry on Clybourne Street, and worked there pouring metal and learning foundry work.
Wow. What does that mean? Foundry work.
What it was is hot metal would come out of this vessel,
Yeah.
and then you pour it, poured it into these molds. So I learned how to make molds and stuff, and after I worked there, I came home. That was in 69, 70.
Okay.
I seen George Lannon, and he called me over in the back of the old tribal building in Mission, and he was a potter, George Lannon, and he taught me how to make some pottery, and him and I were teaching pottery for kids and adults.
What a story. I mean, how many you could write a book, it sounds like, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to this then, because you have so many experiences, and I feel like we can cover a lot. But let's go to kind of what we're here for today. Do you have any experience when it comes to tribal politics?
Yes, I was when Fred got out of prison. He ran for consul.
Okay, so what year was that?
And the thing was that Fred was a felon, so being a felon, he couldn't run on the consul.
Okay.
But somehow that he could, because I didn't really understand why some people said that, and then he did.
Okay.
So that I think it was in 2004. Well, me and Kelly and my wife Kelly, we went to the Medewan Lodge
Yep.
and became Medewans They were first degree, and we invited me and my brother Don and that Denemy girl, Terry Denemy.
Terry.
She's a Medewan. She's and we had the Medewan ceremonies, fall ceremonies, I believe.
Yep.
Right here in Kiwanda Bay. And sadly, there was like maybe four people from Kiwanda Bay came to it. Well, I was sitting in the lodge, and who comes walking in? Because there was going to be a teaching.
Yep.
And we're sitting there waiting for the. And Fred came in. And he sat down by it, and we listened to the teaching. And in the lodge, he says, "Joe, I'm looking for somebody to run me for tribal council. Would you run with me?"
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Oh my God, I got to think about this, because a lot of people didn't like Fred, or with the takeover and all this other thing going on. I didn't want to expose myself as Fred lover, or what do you call him, or whatever. But that would be a good experience, I thought. And I talked to it with my wife, and hey, what the heck? What could you?
You never thought about it before then?
No.
No.
And being in the lodge, I thought maybe there's a reason here.
Yeah.
So he called me up on, well, did you get an answer? And I said, yeah, okay, Fred, we'll do it. And then I started sort of like picking his brain, or asking questions about what really happened with how we started the casino and things like that.
Okay, well, let's take a break here and reset these cameras, and we'll get back to that.
Okay.
Because that one sounds like it might be a little bit longer thought.
Yeah.
All right, we're resetting the cameras. Okay. All right, cameras are reset. Timers are going. Okay, so Fred Dakota has just approached you and asked you to run for tribal council, and you had accepted, and you're picking his brain.
Yeah, well, we had little strategies of how we're going to win and things like that, and I never thought we'd do that.
Yeah.
And getting all the tribal members' addresses and phone numbers and
all the campaigning stuff.
Campaigning stuff, and we won.
So 2004, that's your first venture into tribal politics, right. And you got in.
Yeah, got in and served on the council for 3 years.
3 years. And what was that like, those 3 years? What did you take away from that experience?
I think how a person can waste 3 years because of the council's cliques. They get the majority of the council.
Yep.
They're all friends and stuff, and they can vote you right over.
Yeah.
And your friend will help your friend, and you pat my back and that type of stuff.
When it comes to voting on different things at the meetings?
Different things, right.
Okay.
And closed sessions, Fred, I, and Popcorn would vote against it because we wanted to have the people know what's going on instead of closed sessions and hiding stuff.
All right, I will let you know that the one ground rule we have is no names, so let's try not to put any names in there, just in case.
Okay.
All right?
From now on.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. And then, okay.
But it was a good experience, and I think if I didn't do that, I wouldn't. The reason why I'm going now is because people asked me to go.
You feel a support from the community?
Support, yeah, right.
Okay. And so when did you start hearing people in your ear say, "Hey, Joe, run again"?
When it was starting to get close for election.
Just recently here, you said, "Okay, I'll go for it."
Yeah.
Now here you are.
Here I am.
Okay, so have you been out campaigning at all?
Not really. I thinking more what my strategy would be is, and my strategy would be language and culture.
Okay, coming
because
from that angle.
The present council is doing nothing but when I was on, I'd made my plaque, my name plaque, Shawanang, my Indian name.
Yeah.
And there was people against that. They were says, "Is that your what kind of name?"
They call it what? Legal.
Legal name? Is that your legal name? No, it's my Indian name.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's more stronger than your what you call name because this is Indian reservation,
Yep.
right? And they go by Robert's Rules of Order.
Yes, that's true.
This book right here.
Yep.
Instead of letting people express their feelings through the eagle feather, and pass that eagle feather on every council meeting.
Yeah. So when you were there the first time, were you working to bring more of that besides for just your name tag? Did you work to bring culture to those meetings?
Yes, I did. I did an Indian prayer during it.
Oh, you did?
Right.
Okay.
Instead of the Our Father, what they do now.
Yes.
And did an Indian prayer, and gave a copy to every council member, and when I read it, they repeated it.
Okay.
And I read a little bit of it, and Gay Gates to Gokina, and they said Gay Gates to Gokina.
So you're all about getting the culture in there, and not even just centering around the culture, but no matter what we do, having the culture being our start point.
Right.
Okay.
And that's what's going to happen there is the people are going to start seeing that we are Native Americans. We are Anishinaabes. We are not Indians, because the way the story I heard from high school or school was Columbus founded India. It was wanted to go to India.
Yeah.
To get the riches and stuff, and who was with him was a bunch of people from the prisons on his boat. And they went down San Salvador or something, and it says these people are Indians. What he found or supposed to have discovered.
Yeah.
And then we were not. The
No.
Indian people here on this part of the country are called Anishinaabes.
Yes. I don't even think Christopher Columbus actually came to the
Here.
U.S. territory. He was way down south still.
Right.
So it's crazy
then-
how he gets attributed so much.
And then to have people calling each other Anishinabes or Ojibways.
Yep.
We're from the Ojibwe Nation, and
Yes.
is one of the biggest nations of Indians in the world, next to Navajos.
Yep.
And to have our children see that, have people start talking our language, gives them more respect.
Yes, even
Give
when
them
it's at
more
things
thing.
like council meetings and when
Council
it's supposed to
meetings,
be official functions, but hey,
Yeah.
let's take the time to recognize our culture and
Not
who we are.
only the 1 year powwow, but have those children see what that was going on from the council top all the way down to them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And spread that to encourage them to be Anishinabes.
So did you say that you had helped bring the lodge to KBIC when it did come here? The
lodge?
Medewan Lodge?
Yes. See, the lodge goes to all different reservations.
Yeah. And hasn't been here since then, right?
For four times: spring,
Okay.
summer, fall, and winter ceremonies. And the fall ceremonies was here.
The fall ceremonies. Have they
But
been?
did you ever hear the story of how the Medewan Lodge was almost wiped out?
No, I have not.
Because all the people were dying off that knew how to do initiation ceremony. Or
Okay.
know how to do the different degree ceremonies.
Yeah.
And when we had the pageant here, the AIM came, and we were sitting in Ted Halapa's house, and we were drumming in the back in his backyard, and there was a bunch of AIM people there. One of them was Eddie Benton. His Indian name is Bud Wavy Dunn.
I don't know what that means.
And they took a break, and then right across the street is the campgrounds for Methodist Church,
Okay.
and there was drumming coming from there.
Really?
You could hear that boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And some of them, Eddie and some of us went over there, and some stopped because they started getting scared.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only hear it a little bit.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. They got to it, and Eddie said there was the grass opened up like this and closed, and there was a little boy drumming in that.
Really?
a little a water drum.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And everybody came back. And Eddie started remembering those old songs of his mom and dad, of those sacred hymns. And then he start asking questions, or other people who knew these different ceremonies of the Midaywan way.
All right, Joe, I mean, I hate to interrupt you again, but we're hitting these timers. Man, it's getting deep.
Yeah.
All right, we'll reset
Good.
the timers. All right, Joe, we got our timers back up and running. So,
Great.
man, I don't even know where to go with it. I mean, you're going...
Okay. Eddie's coming out of the and start remembering these ceremonies and these songs. They were all songs, and started seeing people that knew the different ceremonies for first, second, third, fifth degree, eighth degrees.
He just, what do you mean started seeing them? Just running into them?
Start remembering them.
Okay.
And people, and talking to elders from different tribes. Oh yes, that's the way we do it.
Okay.
And started the Midaywan Lodge back again.
So it was like that movement from that unexplained connection there. That's what you're trying to bring back to this area.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Bring it, back to our tribe.
Back to our
and
tribe.
back to our council. Back to doing the way the Indians did it.
Yep.
The Anishinaabe. It doesn't all have to be language. We could use the English language, but introduce themselves like I did, Shawanang and Disnakaz. Use their Indian names who are on the council.
I understand.
And start. What really happened is when I put that name there, I was making them talk Ojibwe.
Yep.
We were saying Shawanang is a Ojibwe word.
Yep. That's how you put that out there and just
That's
make it
my
normal.
little click, what you call. But just think if our councils start doing the smudging, have somebody come in and do a pipe ceremony.
Yep.
Tell a story about why does the skunk have stripes, or
Yep.
and like we were doing years ago here on the radio station.
Yep.
That would give those people and those young people who are on drugs or thinking about using drugs more pride in themselves, and they wouldn't rely on those drugs.
Yep.
They give it our whole reservation of pride.
I gotcha.
Instead of now they're all they're worried about is getting money.
Yep.
Going to the council meeting and get their paycheck. Going to work. And they don't have no time to learn the language. They don't have no time to sit down and take in another child.
Yep.
Because there's those druggers that are losing their children, and what's happening with them? They're going off to fosters.
Yep. That's true.
And that pride in us being an Anishinaabe, which I worked, it really happened. It really works, because I was a youth counselor down in Hannibal Indian Reservation.
Mm-hmm.
And I started up an art therapy program with my pottery. I did pottery right down. We had a room in a school, and after school, kids would come in and do pottery, and started an art therapy. And they sent me to Chicago on art therapy, and helped some children down there, and dysfunctional families with alcoholism and swearing at their children for get on the bus and get your clothes
just
on.
unbalanced
Their
people.
schools, you're getting late, and and stuff like that. And they beat the clay, and they made themselves proud and of being Indian and being sober.
And sometimes that's all it takes is that little intro into that first step.
Just a little bit of kindness or a little bit of interest in somebody that has the education or has the kindness in their hearts to adopt.
Yep. Okay, Joe, so I do want to say that I think you're the closest potential to maybe looking at filling the whole 60 minutes. So before we get to the 60 minutes, do you want to keep continuing on this, or should we go to the Facebook questions? I'm going to leave it up to you.
Doesn't matter to me. Facebook questions?
Well, instead of going to Facebook questions, I can also just ask you about some of the bigger bullet points of the things we've been covering. if you'd like me to do that.
Sure.
Well, the biggest thing, of course, is the tribe's business is, you mentioned the money thing, but, the tribe we're entrepreneurs here. What is your opinion on the tribe's business adventures? I mean, we have the casino, we have the cannabis project. I'm really curious to know what you have to say.
When Fred started the gaming, it was on himself.
Yep.
It was an individual that started that.
Yep.
That was Fred. It wasn't a console. It was him. He wanted to feed his family, and by doing that, most of the entrepreneurs or business aspects really come from the individual. Our rights. It was the fishermen, and there was more than Boise John Road that got ticketed that day.
Oh, really?
It was, my brother Larry and Jim Cardinal was fishing. Donnie Carlson and Jimmy Emery, they got tickets, and there was a couple other people. I ain't sure Fred Goki did or not, but I remember that day. But they elected Boise John Rowe because he was the old man, and
Okay.
they wouldn't send him to prison because he was so old or something in that type of frame of mind.
Yeah, I gotcha. So he was kind of the spokesperson for that
Yeah,
group?
and it just happened that we won, and it came to John Rowe's decision.
Yep.
Okay, but it was more Indians than that did it. But what I'm trying to say, it came from the person, from an individual standpoint, that started that. It wasn't the council.
Yeah.
And with the casino too, the same thing. It started over right by where I lived there in John DeBuck's garage.
Yep. So you would say that you, if you're on council, you're looking to help individuals and members go for business opportunities and stuff like that?
What I'm saying is that the council should govern and do the governing aspect, not the enterprises.
Okay. Very clear.
Because there's too much micromanagement and stuff and and what you call, let the business people do the business, and let the spiritual leaders or the spiritual people or the cultural and the language people do the language, and the sewing people do the sewing, and live happily ever after. I believe.
I gotcha. I mean,
or
makes perfect sense.
Why if you don't know anything about something, how can you say do this, do that?
Yes. I think that's the answer everybody is looking for right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the tribe's business ventures. What about off-reservation member voting? That's another big one everybody's wondering about.
Right.
Do you think people on the reservation should vote, people within ceded territory should vote, or anybody should vote?
Right. My feelings about that would be, if you're a tribal member, you should be able to vote. I don't care what part of this creation you are.
Yep.
If you're living on the moon, you can vote.
Yeah.
With the technologies nowadays, what's the big deal?
Yep.
People could just, call in on the phone and say, I vote, da-da-da-da.
Absolutely.
Why absentee ballots ballot could be done, all kinds of different technology things, or they could come here. I like the idea if they come here and vote. Plus, they can see their cousins and they can see their relations.
That's one of the reasons I don't like the proxy voting and stuff, because I just want them to come home, and you're going to be more connected if you're here than if you're not. Right.
And then a lot of people say, well, they don't know what's going on. Heck, they don't. They call people over here and talk with, well, what you call's doing this and what you call's that, and now what you call's in jail and things like that. They know.
People know.
They ain't stupid who are learning on the reservations.
Yep.
My wife is from Hannibal, and she knows what's going on. She gets the newsletter. She knows what's going on.
Yep. On the internet, we have the website, the newsletter.
Right.
We're going to hit these timers again, Joe. I'm going to reset them again. Timer time. Okay, we're back up and running. All right, Joe, so we're just kind of going over the questions here on Facebook. I think I kind of know where you're going to go with this one, because you've already kind of let us know that you think that first connection with the culture is where we kind of start with everything. And you even mentioned it helping people with drug problems and stuff. So I guess we don't really need to ask that question. All right, I'm going to ask you this straightforward question for Michael Dowd. What in your head makes a perfect tribal council candidate?
An Indian.
Yes, that's the best answer I've ever heard.
I think a person. See, what happened to me is my mother chased me up to Kate Yockers and Annie Cadine's and shoveled her snow.
Oh, yeah?
Hauling their wood, hauled their water. At first, when I'm walking up there, I'm cussing and but after a while, I got there and they'd hand us cookies or give us a little reward. It wasn't much. They're poor. They were poor Indians back then.
Yeah.
But they were old and they couldn't hardly, they couldn't shovel snow.
Yeah.
And we did that for years and years. A person nowadays don't do that.
Unless they're getting paid for something.
Parents are not teaching their children to help each other. I think, there's a saying, I think I'll quote it from Gary Lowenstein Jr., that it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
And that in my days did happen because Mahon's ma gave me a licking once.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was in town and she chased me home and gave me a licking and chased me home because it was getting dark.
Oh, just you're out too late?
Yeah, I was out too late.
Okay.
And I learned from that.
Yes.
And to respect the elders. One of the things that are not done today. They're gatherings that but the elders, because they're the ones that know. They lived through it. They know what's going on. They got lickings before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now if you hit a child, they're calling social services and stuff.
Yeah. Things are changing and whatnot.
Yeah, I'd say.
So we are getting pretty far along in this time limit here. Is there a certain topic or issue or something that you'd like to talk about more? Something I didn't cover? Anything?
Yeah. I want to see smudging and traditional things done at our council meetings.
Okay.
And I brought some sage and my new lighter that I what I do is I go to
that was a lightsaber.
Little Eagles children, and I drum and smudge them. And each day is a new child is my helper and does the smudging.
Yeah.
And what I do is I got a new lighter and said they did this with flint and steel and made a mark on Skitagan to get into the medicine. But I got new days and I got a little lighter that goes on here.
I think it looks like it's from Elon Musk's collection.
And what working with the girls over at Little Eagles, they researched this, and what I was told that it purifies you, it purifies all around you and stuff, and they got deeper and it says it kills the mold. It's good for you, and it is more than just a cleansing.
Really?
It's a healing thing.
So that really is medicine.
It's
what
really
they're saying.
meshkiki.
Yeah.
So when the children are pulling it in and going around, I tell them to say meshkiki, uwa meshkiki, mena meshkiki, good medicine, and trust that medicine. The old people would say. The old, people that I learned from the Medaiman Lodge, and some of the people that are like Donnie Carlson was big on that. Traveling medicine.
Traveling medicine.
Right. He gave me a leather pouch one day, and I was hitchhiking to Minneapolis to see my brother Bruce. He gave me that medicine. He drove me over to Covington Junction. As soon as I got out of the car, I put my finger out, and the car stopped.
Oh, yeah.
Went all the way to Ironwood. Got out of Ironwood. A guy was going right to Minneapolis.
Covington to Ironwood to Minneapolis.
Minneapolis. And
wow.
He was some kind of a hockey player at Northern.
Huh.
And boom, traveling medicine, Joe.
Yeah, it works.
Trust it, and remember,
And that's what you're basing a lot of this on, is that trust, that faith, if you will,
Yep.
in that culture.
The kindness of each other.
Okay, very good. So I think I will give you this time then to speak to your voters. This is where you can pretend the cameras are here again and talk to them.
Oh, bonjour, Shawanang and Disnikas. I want to thank Mitch for having me come in, and respect each and every one of you. If you have any questions, call me. My number is 524-5167. Anything on the culture, anything on Medewi win. I know there's other people on the reservation that know. Call them up, learn your culture. That'll help our council meetings, and people that don't know anything about what's going on the reservation, ask. Vote for me, Shawanang.